Last I spoke about the players, they had just defeated a Dretch Teneri and were now headed to the Orichelm on the ship the infamous Thelma. So if you haven't watched those yet, just go back and watch them. Okay, so before I continue, I need to explain some things about the Orichelm that are a little bit touchy. So if you're really sensitive, you might want to either skip forward to a couple of minutes. But it shouldn't be that bad, I hope. The Orichelm are a pervasive breeding subspecies of orcs. They believe that greater enlightenment for their species comes through crossbreeding with other things and gaining better genetics. Nishant, our cleric in the party, is of this group. So when the players arrive, Nishant is quickly hurried back to a room where typically he would be required to interbreed with one of the other Orichelm so as to propagate the race. But this time he is not. He's led into a room with portraits of unnaturally curvaceous, I'll say. Just like you'd see a pin-up girl. Pictures of orcs. It was a little hard to explain to the players and a little more awkward than it is right now still. And he was required to give a sample of his genetics, as it were. And we faded to black very quickly there. The other male players were offered to make donations to the gene pool of the Orichelm, but all found it far too disgusting and awkward to say yes. Though Daenes did want to. The Orichelm doesn't want her because they can't do anything with one, she's a half-elf, and two, they don't breed with females of other species, they breed with the males, because that puts the child firmly in control of the Orichelm. So, players rest the night. The next morning, before they leave, Nishant is called into the office of his superior officer. He sits down with him and he gives him a very somber look. He says, "Nishant, we have a problem. Most orcs of your age have produced at least one offspring, some multiple. Your sisters have both produced children, though none of them possessing your Aasimar abilities. You, however, have produced no offspring. We don't know why this is. We think something about the Aasimar genetics just doesn't let it happen. So we've devised some gene therapy drugs to assist you." Then I described to the player the effects of the drugs. One adjusted the stats to be more orcish instead of Aasimar. The other adjusted the stats, adjusted his special abilities, his saves, and replaced them with orcish fortitude ability, which I stole from Pathfinder. In the end, Nishant chose to take the drug that would adjust his stats, lowering his wisdom, which as a cleric is his primary stat, and increasing his constitution. With this decision made, the players now set off to, on their next stop, the self-ruling empire of the Ogre Magi. As you may recall, their Jedi Knight, their master, the one they're supposed to be following, who ditched them way earlier, Vincent, called them to meet up with him here because his brother, well, they didn't know why exactly. So the players arrive at the capital of the self-run empire of the Ogre Magi, a town or a massive octagonal city known as Kotei, literally House of the Emperor. The entire city of Kotei is set up on a mesa of an equally octagonal shape, and surrounded by these stone tablets that sit up in the air. They see mist forms of Ogre Magi coming through the different tablets. They find that interesting, but none of them can assume gaseous form, so it proves unuseful to them at this time, and they're not terribly interested in that. Looking to try to find Vincent. So the players find their way into the city, get directions to the Middle District. As they progress through, they find that the first rings of the city are inhabited primarily by animal folk. Cat folk, rat folk, any kind of anthro being, really. Nishant, ever the Orichelm fellow, tries to make quick contracts with any of the local species, but is quickly turned down for obvious reasons, because it's awkward for them as awkward it is for everyone else. Going in, they find that each section of the city is divided into which kind of weapon you're allowed to have, depending on where you're allowed to live. The outside, you're allowed to have nothing larger than a dagger. The next one, you're allowed to have a short sword. That'd be a wakizashi, since it's entirely a Eastern style setting in this planet. And further in, you get to katana. Then you can have two weapons, the katana and the... I can't remember the name for it in Japanese, but the little dagger. Then you get further in, katana wakizashi, two katanas, and because ogre magi are gigantic, not quite literally gigantic, they're large, they're 10 feet tall, I think. 9 to 10 feet. I can look it up, but it'd take a little while. So getting up to using a nodachi and a katana, and eventually two nodachi, which are massive swords, which against large creatures like the ogre magi do 3d6 damage, I believe. Quite a bit of damage output, which is why it's restricted to just the ogre magi. So the players find themselves in the Middle District, where the Jedi, as religious envoys, have been permitted to build their sanctuary. When they arrive at the Enclave, they find guards surrounding it. The players pass by them without issue, and find themselves standing in a more homely-feeling place. Though much taller than the standard enclaves they're used to, it has a similar design of other Jedi enclaves. Sitting in the main room, in chairs sized for the players and other humanoid species, are Vincent and his brother Claude, who the players easily recognize the difference in, that Vincent is some 10 or 20 years the senior of his brother. Vincent having gray, spiky hair, and his brother having blue, I believe, spiky hair. Players also meet at this time the Ogre Magi Jedi, whose name escapes me at the moment. The players are informed why they had to meet Vincent here. It seems that Vincent's brother Claude had been implicated in the crime of stealing a ancestral katana from one of the gentry classes of the Ogre Magi up in the next sector of the city. Though Vincent had been very intent on clearing his brother's name, he was unable to do so, as the Ogre Magi couldn't tell the difference between him and his brother, since they do kind of look similar, and they're humans, so they all look similar. Ogre Magi, who are 10 feet tall and look like little ants. So the players are tasked with clearing the brothers' names so that the adventure can carry on, so Vincent can get out of there, really. So the players begin their investigations, learning very quickly that there is a Sith enclave also in the Middle District. They make this their primary objective, assuming, of course, the Sith has to be the villain. They're right, but that's beside the point. It's kind of a classist group thing. So, Fryn, our Drow dual swordsman, goes to one of the nicer clothing establishments and bedecks himself to look like an officer of the Empire, so that he can gain access to the Enclave. Doing so, he finds information in the Enclave that does indeed implicate the Sith in some illegal action, if not the theft of the sword. It tells them of a meeting place and the proper way to signal for the meeting. Fryn does this and meets with an ogre magi who introduces himself as Gary. That is Oni Gary, which is a Japanese food. Oni Gary seems a little confused that the Sith would require his assistance again, since he had already taken care of the business asked of him. Fryn convinces him that something else was left in the area that should not have been. So he hires Oni again to attempt a theft. The other players at this time have been investigating the scene of the crime, getting a one-time pass to look at the dwelling. They see murals on the wall of an ogre magi facing off against a man with purple hair and purple robes. The players instantly recognize this as one of the PC's character from another campaign, and quickly figure out that the weapon in question is a sword given by this character to an NPC, Ogre Magi. Though that was on a different planet, so they're a little confused by that. Players continue their investigation and find that it was excellently done, and most likely by an Ogre Magi, which Fryn has also figured out by the fact that one was hired. So the players set up their stakeout and apprehend a Ogre Magi, thief of the Yakuza class from First Ed. I had to transfer that over, though we didn't fight, so no need really. And interrogate him as to where the sword has gone. They learn that someone known as the Mechanist, a Sith, not quite a lord, but definitely a Sith upper-ranking officer, used the sword and is one of his inventions, and was currently taking it back to the Empire in his vessel. The party prepares to set out after it, and that is where that session ended. So, until I record the next session, good day to all.